Etsy phoned me. Am I in trouble? Was it a scam? Was it helpful? Should you do it? Let's find out. So this was a couple of weeks ago now that Etsy phoned me, and I thought I would make a video on this just now because so many people are asking, they're getting the email and they're wondering if this is a scam or something they should do. Now I totally get that. Scams have been crazy this year. Apparently my PayPal needs urgent advice, my Netflix account, which I don't have, needs urgent, my Apple account, all these things need urgent things and I must click the link. So obviously I was suspicious when an email came in from Etsy, but I checked the actual email was from Etsy and it's from their Etsy onboarding team. And what they were offering was an email consult with my shop to work with me to improve my shop, or words to that effect. And what they wanted you to do was to book a half-hour time slot for them to have a chat with you. So I decided to go ahead. If for nothing else I could share with you guys, I'm not trying to encourage sales at the minute. I'm flat out with everything else, so I'm in a wonderful position. But I thought I would have a look into this and see if this is something, if you get it, if you should do it. So I eagerly waited for my phone call with my pen and paper in hand. To be perfectly honest, I expected this to be very generic, just have the same advice they always have. I was sitting waiting for the use 2 to 4 keywords with commas in between type advice. But thankfully it wasn't quite as bad as that. I am sure they were running a little bit scripted because there'll be a lot of them doing this and they all have to be giving coherent advice. But it was based on items in my shop. Unfortunately, as we'll see, yeah, the item they chose to look at was one that I was running a crazy test on. Typical me. But anyway, he opened up with telling me he wanted to work with me to help me because more optimized listings leads to more views, leads to more sales. So the selling pitch was strong in this, even though I wasn't having to buy anything. And then he went on straight away to hook me up with 30 free listings. So that's worth the 30-minute phone call just for that. And he said he was going to be giving me tips to increase traffic, and then gave me what I considered a bad line. I understand what he's saying there, but he said more views automatically lead to more sales. And that, in my opinion, is simply not the case. More targeted, focused, good views do lead to more sales. But more views? Me just playing view games all day? Is that going to lead to more sales? No, and he shouldn't be given that advice. It's not a case of just getting more views, or even more views can help, but telling me more views definitely lead to more sales. Yeah, don't like that. So the first thing he said about my shop, looking at my shop in general, was that everything's in place. Basically, I've got everything filled in that I need to. But he had some advice to help optimize things. So cool, thought I. I'll have a listen anyway. With my banner, he suggested a more colourful background. I note that he didn't comment on the fact that I only have one banner and I'm paying for the Etsy membership so I can have a rolling carousel of banners, but I haven't got round to it. But he didn't like the white background. That's a matter of taste. I kind of like the white background because it's more cohesive with the rest of the shop and the white listings. But yeah, some people like screaming in your face, some people don't. It might be something I'll experiment with in future. Then he went on to a couple of good points that I really should have in my shop icon, make it a logo. Which totally makes sense. I could easily make a logo. I can do digital drawings, I can do SVGs, so I should consider a logo. So maybe I'll think about doing that at one point. And my personal image should be me. Now the reason, I'll go into this, the reason way back when, you didn't have your shop icon and your personal icon, it was all the same. So I used one of my images of one of my needle felted dogs and that was kind of my logo, that was sort of my branding, but that was my personal image. So he's quite right, I need to change that. Then he mentioned something interesting. He said I don't have enough reviews, and quite right, I'm well aware that more reviews helps you more in the search, so the more you can get, the better. But I'm sitting at over 33% reviews to sales, and considering a lot of my sales are to guests who can't leave reviews, I was always under the impression that 33% was good. So I had that in the back of my mind. He was going through his bullet points at this point, so I didn't have a chance to ask questions, so I asked later. So wait till the end till you hear what he thinks a good number of reviews, a good review rate is. And another thing I did not like was he suggested I could up my reviews by sending people a mail offering them things like a discount for reviews, which I thought was against Etsy terms of service, to be honest. And he did suggest something which I do kind of already do. I don't shout about it, but he asked to ask people to tag on Instagram if they're putting up a picture. Have done that, and yeah, that is really good advice, because my massive sales last February were all because someone tagged me on Instagram. So yeah, that's totally worth it. If you haven't done that, that's in my note to new buyers. As soon as they buy something, that note comes out, and it's basically, if you're super happy, blah blah blah, here you go, hashtag Ben McFuzzyLugs. So some people do that, and it is awesome. He was happy with the layout of my featured listings. I use a mixture because I'm a paid member. I use a mixture of sections and individual listings, and I do try and keep on top of that. So yeah, I'm glad he had nothing to suggest there. And again, he thought my sections were good. Now, your sections, you could add SEO, you could add keywords to your sections, but personally for me, I'm just all about making them useful for the customer. So they're small, medium and large. So it helps people find the size they're looking for. He was super happy that I'm using a story video, which of course I would be. I'm a YouTuber. We also did a video on making that video. Way back when, but he did suggest I could add more images there, and yeah, I totally can. More images of me creating the product, and yeah, completely agree with that. That's a kind of awesome idea. And he's talking about like the source material and where I got my inspiration, so yeah, pictures of the dogs. Sounds good to me. And one thing I'd never really considered, in the section of shop member, now that's only me, I don't have anyone else working for me, but he suggested me to put more details about me in there. It hadn't occurred to me. I thought that was just to put details, you know, you could put in what your production partners or everything were like, but he says use that space as well to describe yourself as an artist, why you're doing this. Okay. And very much he was keen that I update my policies. I haven't touched them in a little while. He was very vague, saying since 2018 there's been tons of changes. But he wouldn't tell me what any of them were. But apparently you've got to check your policies are still in date. Mine are there from about 2008, and I've been slowly updating them ever since. So yeah, that's fair. There's probably things that are out of date to them. And it is a good idea to... all of you, it's worthwhile going and checking are your policies still okay. Then he dived into my listings. Unfortunately, he just picked a single listing, and as I said, that was the one that I'm testing. But he did suggest to try and up my number of photographs. Some good suggestions. I mean, Etsy do have their Ultimate Guide to Photography, which has a ton of great suggestions. But as I'm upgrading my packaging just now, a photograph of my packaging would be cool for people to see what they're getting, because I am trying to make it nicer, more of a luxury experience when you open the box. So good idea to show that. He said describe the product in the first 2 to 3 words of the title, which I agree with. Then he said terms like, what about best gift item, which yeah, I dislike very much, but fair enough, on you go. Another bit of advice I'm not sure about. He was talking about the attributes, and he was saying even if there's something that doesn't fit, if there's nothing that fits, don't leave it blank, add something, which again is pretty much against what I've seen in Etsy advice in the past. So it did make me think I've got to check these things, but yeah, their attributes are important, but I don't believe in just adding things if they're not important, if they're not relevant. He stressed, quite rightly, that descriptions are important. Adding all the things, what age group this is for, how it works, what you do with it. Yep, totally generic and correct. And as expected, he said to use all tags. Now I generally do, but as I said, this was a test listing, so it didn't have all its ducks in a row. But yeah, fair enough, use all your tags. It gives you a chance to be seen for more searches. Tags aren't as important as everyone makes them out to be. I've done some experiments on this, so yeah, I'll add the words, but most of them are not going to do a single thing. Then it got kind of interesting, and this is where I will say It is worth your while sitting through this half hour, even if you ignore most of what they say. And some of it can be helpful. You've got a fresh pair of eyes looking at your shop. But he offered £50 in Etsy credits if I add 20 more listings to my shop. Now I've got 30 free listings, so that's cool. He just wanted to use the advice that he'd given for me to use that and create 20 more listings. And if I do that, then I'll get 50 quid for, well, I won't get 50 quid, I'll get 50 quid credits in my shop. So that means I can keep the ads running and everything. So if you get this email, it's worth it for that. If you had 50 quid credit and you increased your shop's number of listings by 20 more listings right now, that means you can advertise all through Christmas for free. So yeah, totally go for it. And then it was at this point that I decided to ask him again about what's the right review ratio? What number of reviews should I be looking at? And he hummed and hawed for a minute and then finally decided to tell me, and in his opinion, he's expecting 60% of customers to leave a review. And I have not seen this as a case in any shops, let alone the majority of shops, so I was very surprised with that as a number. But sure, always working on getting more reviews, but I think a third's pretty good. And then after the call, I got an email recapping things and telling me the steps I needed, what I needed to do with these 20 listings. So I've got it written down because my memory's shocking. So they want the 20 listings to have 5 photographs, at least 5 photographs, 13 tags, at least 2 categories and 3 attributes and a description. So that's what they're looking for, and if I make those, then I make 50 quid. So that sounds good for an afternoon's work. So if you get the email from the Etsy onboarding team, it's not a scam, and it is worth it, even if some of the advice was I didn't love. Some of it was good, and it just reminded me to dig into my shop and make some changes again. Hope that helped. See you next time.